world where it's already 9. Thank you for joining early. Today's session is on Excel chart, which is visualization, presentation, making things very well illustrated. And our special guest today is Sanjay Chandra, all the way from India, and he's very well prepared for us. I'm going to quickly read his profile too, but before I go to his profile, just to quickly remind us that this session is being brought to you by your BizEdge. So we've been powering this for the last, I think, 70 weeks now, which is like almost 2 years. And we thank you for always being in attendance to people who have been joining. If you're interested in any training on business intelligence, Excel, financial modeling, we'll be very glad to provide training to you. And we have trainings lined up for January. December is kind of almost over. And to the main thing, so this is the special thing we have going today. We have someone special who is a business intelligence analyst at C&P COE Digital Lab at Hitachi Energy, which, as we all know, Hitachi is a global, a very big company. So, which is very interesting. I see that a lot more electrical engineers, electronics engineers, are the ones dominating in this space of BI. It's always sometimes nice, then some other think it's unfair because engineers are always, when banking was raining, engineers were the one getting all the investment banking jobs, and they pushed out the bankers and those who studied banking in school. And then now data analysis, BI is what is raining. And again, I'm also an electrical engineer. We are the ones dominating. So yeah, I'm glad and proud that we are everywhere. And his focus is on Microsoft Power Platforms and Microsoft Office. He's got over 4 years work experience in the corporate finance space, BI space, analytics, and general management. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. So if you type his name on LinkedIn, just as you can see his face, in case you type his name and many people come up, make sure it is the one with his face that you send the connection request to. And then you can go also on his website, sanjaychandra.com. It's easy to spell, easy to write, sanjaychandra.com. So over to you, Sanjay. It's a pleasure to have you. You can unmute and also share your screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Let us start the session. I'm just sharing my screen.
Great. So please do.
I hope all of you can see my screen.
Yes, it's up. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. First of all, I want to ask you, generally when we talk about visualization, today we talk about Tableau, Power BI, and all these visualization tools. Now you might be wondering, why do we require Excel? I mean, why should we learn charts on Excel? The reality is, wherever you work, whether it's a startup or a big company, and whenever you want to give any kind of presentation, let's say to the top management, it doesn't matter whether you're doing a live project, internship, whether you go to a college. So whenever you are going to give any kind of presentation related to any field, it could be equity research, it could be something related to finance, etc. Most of the time you have to present it on PowerPoint. Now, as of today, there is no integration of Power BI with PowerPoint. So you have to always rely on charts which are made for Microsoft Office, which is on Excel or PowerPoint or Word. Even today, if you see any corporate presentation, if you have attended any kind of corporate presentation, they are going to show you charts which are either made on Excel or they are made on PowerPoint itself. And the great thing about charts on Excel is, of course, Power BI is great, but Excel offers you even more options when it comes to customization. For example, when it comes to Power BI, new features are rolling out. For example, recently some new user interface change has come. So more and more options are being added. But if you want to make something very customizable, something very unique, Excel is still the go-to tool, and it's a very underrated tool when it comes to charts. And there are a lot of customization options. So the first thing which I want to talk about is, generally when we make charts, there are certain things which we don't take care of. So I'll walk you through one example. So let me take region and let me take sales. So we have A, B, C, D, C. So we have few regions like this. And there are some sales, right? 100, 200, some sales are there. Now if I just select all of this, so this is like a table, right? You have two columns, region and sales. And then if I go to insert and I click on charts, I'm able to get some nice chart, some very simple bar chart I'm getting. Now, for example, let's say some new data comes in. Let's say up to here the data is there. This is coming fine. Now let's say I got a new data like H region. So let's say I got some 800 sales. Now the issue is the chart is not updating, right? Whatever chart you created, it is only taking up to this column. It is only taking data up to this column. Whatever new data comes below this is not being considered. Now this can be again you need to select the chart again, and manually you have to, once you select the chart again, manually you have to drag it like this. So it becomes cumbersome. Now to solve this problem, there is actually something called tables concept in Excel. For example, what I'll do is I'll select this and then I'll go to insert and then I'll say table. This is a concept in Excel where you can convert a group of cells into table. And once you click on create table, it will ask you, does your table has headers or not? Headers means the column names basically. In this particular table, the first row is column names, region and sales. So our table has headers. The data actually starts from the second row. So this one should be checked and I'll click OK. Now a table has been created. Once you create a table, on the top right, you can see there is something called table design in the tab, and you got a lot of new options. Now let's say if new data point comes to me. So up to H, the data points are there. These are the existing data points. Let's say a new data point comes. Let's say I got I, and let's say I got 1000 sales. As you can see automatically in the charts, this got updated. This is the I column. Let's say a new one comes. So let's say Y comes and let's say the sales are 200. Automatically without user intervention, my chart is actually getting updated, right? So this is the advantage of using tables along with charts. If you don't use tables, what happens is whatever data you add, only to that the chart will be working. But if you want to automate your charts, like as soon as you add new data, if you want your chart to be updated, so you have to convert your group of cells into table. And then once you keep on adding things, automatically things will get added to the end, towards the end of the graph. So this is about automation, right? Automation with tables. And this works across Excel, right? There is no limitation. Like you can create multiple tables and then multiple charts. And the concept behind the tables is that whenever you add a new record, that new record also becomes part of the table. For example, if you see here, you have blue color, right? This is all white color. Now, for example, if I add a new record, now let's say I add a new record called AB. Automatically, you see there is a small triangle which has shifted. That means the table is expanding automatically, right? So that is the cool thing about tables. This is one way to automate your charts. The other way to automate your charts is you can actually select the entire column and then create a chart. But again, the issue is there will be a lot of blanks here. So a better way to create charts with automation will be with tables, so that you'll actually not consume a lot of memory, because when you select full columns, that can actually consume more memory and more RAM. That's why tables are always a very good way to automate your charts. This is the first concept. And the next concept which I want to talk about are target charts. This is called target charts. For example, in our business, we always have some targets, right? So in this case also, I'll just copy this data. I'm just copying it and then pasting it. Now we have some data. Now the issue with this type of data is that, for example, if I just select everything and directly, so first I'll convert it into table. So I'll go to insert, converted it into table. Then again, I'll go to insert and then I created one chart. Now this chart is looking fine. I mean, nothing fancy about it. It's great. visually it is okay. You can customize it. You can change the colors a little bit. Maybe you can change the font size and everything. But the problem is we want something which can wow the audience, right? We want something which can actually be dynamic, because that's what makes these lot of visualization tools very popular. We want charts which are dynamic in nature. So in order to achieve some dynamism, what I'll do is, so what I want to achieve is, I have some target, right? If sales are above target, bar should be green. If sales are below target, bar should be red, right? So for example, I'll set 500 as a target. So whichever sales are below 500, these should be in red color, and whichever are above 500, equal to or above 500, they should be in green color. Now, can we achieve this kind of thing? Now, when you generally ask this question, many people say you require VBA. But actually, the great thing about Excel charts is, if you just use little bit of customization without the help of VBA, without help of any kind of complicated stuff, you can actually create a very beautiful dynamic chart. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you right now. So we have region and then we have sales. We have two columns. Now I'll add a third column called target. Now what I'll do is, this column, I'll link this column to this cell and I'll freeze it. Now why am I doing this? Because whatever target I type here, the target should change. That is my aim, right? And now what I'll say is above target. Here I'll say below target. Don't worry, I'll repeat it again, but once you just see the output. So first I have region, then I have sales, then I have some target, and this target is linked to this cell. So whatever target I type here, it will appear here, right? And then I'll type a formula. I will say that if I'm using a condition, if my sales are above or equal to target, that means if my sales are above or equal to target, now as you can see, because this is a table, my references are also showing the column names. Generally what you'll say C6 greater than D6 or something like that. But because this is a table, it directly shows the column names. So if my sales are greater than my target, so what should it display? It should display the sales, right? It should display the sales. So I'll say this. Otherwise, blank. So what I'm trying to say here is, if my sales is greater than or equal to target, then display sales, otherwise blank. That means, for example, if I type 400, so wherever the sales are below 400, there it will show blank. Wherever it is greater than or equal to the target, it shows sales. Now here I will put exactly the opposite. The same condition I'll copy, right? And here I'll put the reverse condition. Here I'll say less than target. Now what is happening is, I'm splitting this column, the sales column, into two parts. Splitting sales column into two parts with a logic, right? I'm saying that whenever sales are above the target, then only display, otherwise keep blank. Whenever sales is below target, then you put sales, otherwise blank. So what is happening is, the same column I'm splitting into two parts, right? That is what I'm doing. Now just observe what will happen. So this is my chart. I'm selecting this. Now I don't want this sales. I want only these three columns: target, above target, below target. And then here I'll just drag it slowly. And now I have only three columns which are displayed here. And then here I'll go to chart design. I'll select change chart type and I'll go to combo chart. So I'll repeat. First, I'm removing the sales column. So I'm just dragging it. So I'm selecting the chart and I'm just dragging it like this. So I have only three columns now. So target, above target, below target, only three columns I'm selecting. Then I'm going to change chart type. I'm going to combo. And now I want all three to be clustered. But again, because we are talking about target, so target line is always like a line chart. So what I'm doing is, I want target should be a line chart because target is constant. 400 is constant. Everywhere I want line chart. And above target, below target, only 3 columns are there, right? So I want these two to be bar charts and this should be line. So here I went to combo chart and I have selected the type and I clicked OK. So this is a bar chart. This is also a bar chart. This is a line chart. Now what I'll do is I'll go here. I'll say format data series and I'll overlap the series. Right? I have overlapped the series. And this, what I'll do is I'll go here and then probably I'll make the line 1.5, something like that, and I'll put a dotted line. Probably the third one. And now you see, for example, if I say my target is 500. So what I'll do is I have to change the colors also, right? The orange color, wherever target is above, I want it to be in green color, right? This is the one, sorry. This is the one which I want. I want green color. Whenever the target, if I change my target as 100, so everything changes to green. Because all the targets are greater than or equal to 100, right? They are greater than or equal to target. That's why everything is showing green. Now let's say my target is 500. Automatically, whichever values, for example, these 4 values are below 500. That's why these 4 are displaying red color. Here also they are displaying red color. So whenever let's say my target is 1000, only one is actually matching the condition. The rest of them became red. So I have achieved this, right? Whenever my sales are above target, my bar is green. Above or equal to target, right? Above are greater than or equal to. So whenever my sales are greater than or equal to the target, the bar is showing green color. Whenever my sales are below the target, which is mentioned here, it is red color. Now let's say if I say 750. So only there are H and I regions which are meeting this target. So these two. These are the values which are above 750. So in this way, you can create a very cool dynamic chart. So here I didn't use any kind of code. I didn't use any kind of VBA, nothing. It is very simple manipulation which I have done. All I have did was I have taken region and sales. Then I have added a target column. Then I have split the sales column into 2 parts by using this logic. And then I created a chart. Then initially it was like this. I reduced it. I went to the chain chart type. I went to combo chart. And then I selected the target to be line chart. And then what I have done, I have simply overlapped the series to 100%. That's it. So if I just have to summarize what I have done, 3 added target column, right? Then above target and below target with if logic. Then series overlap. And then I have actually done, then I have selected only 3 columns, right? Sales column is no longer there, right? I have reduced it. Only 3 columns are there in the chart. Then I have actually made target into line chart. And other 2 columns are bar charts. Then finally what I have done, I have simply overlapped the series 100%. So these are the steps I have taken. First, I added a column chart. Then I have split the sales chart into above target, below target using if logic. Then I have made sure that I selected only 3 columns with dragging like this. Then I made the target into a line chart so that my target will be a constant line. And then I have overlapped the series by 100%. So with very simple steps, I'm able to make a very dynamic chart design. So that is the specialty of Microsoft Excel. So with very simple things, you can actually do. 1 second. I have one message. Yeah. Okay. Yes, if you want something even more dynamic, then even more you need to add even more columns. So that can be little more, you need to add a lot of other calculations as well. It is possible, but again, more number of columns will be there. and you have to select these columns very carefully. Here you can add multiple things. For example, here we are actually putting the formula as target like this, right? So I am saying that this should be the target for everything. So if you have multiple regions with multiple targets, what you can do, you can say like this: target 1, target 2, target 3, like that. You can put something like that. And then here, let's say you'll say 100, 200, and here you can change it. So instead of H3, you can just delete this and you can select something like this, right? You can select something like this, and here also you can actually change it. So if you have multiple targets, that is the only way you can do it, right? So this column you need to change, and of course, because the targets are different, instead of a line chart, here probably you can change it to a bar chart so that you can have both of the comparisons, right? Target versus the actual. Otherwise, what happens is the line chart will not be constant. It will be changing, right? Because when you change this. So what you can do is, for multiple regions, put different targets, and here itself, instead of giving this reference, you give multiple references, and then the formula also you change it. Okay, I'll show the condition once again. See, the condition is very simple. The condition is, I'm basically splitting my column into two parts. If my sales is greater than or equal to target, right, then show sales. Why am I using this condition? I want all the values which are only above the target. Here I want all the values which are below the target, right? I'm splitting my sales column into two parts, wherever values are greater than or equal to target and wherever the values are less than the target. So here I am saying that if my sales is greater than or equal to the target, it is sales, otherwise blank. Here opposite. Here I am saying greater than or equal to. Here I am saying less than. That is the only difference. So that's how I'm able to create two columns which are like complementing each other. Whenever there is a value here, here you will find empty space. Whenever you find value here, you find it empty space. You will never find both columns filled. So that is the logic behind this. That's how I was able to manipulate this chart, because of this logic. Right? You don't have multiple values. You only have single value. Either this will be with a value or this will be with a value, but not both. So that is the idea behind this target chart. I hope I'm clear. And the next thing which I want to show you is spark lines. So I'll just copy this data and then I'll paste it. Now let's say you want a very small compact view regarding. Now what I'll do is I'll add some data, right? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. And here I'll add some random data, right? So this is a random formula which will allow you to add random data, rand between. So I'll just copy and paste it. So I have some random data here. And let's say I want some small representation, small visual representation. What I can do is I can select this. I'll go to insert. Just watch this. This is some data which I have, two-dimensional data. And I want to have a very quick overview in terms of visual design. So what I'll do is I'll put my cursor here, my cell, and then I'll go to insert on the top. And then here you have something called spark lines. I hope you can see. And then I'll click on line. And now it is asking me for the data range. And obviously I'll say this is my data range, these 4 cells. And I'll click OK. Now I can actually copy and paste this down. And now I got very small cool lines, right? Here also I can do the same thing. I'll go to the bottom. I'll say insert. I'll say line. And then I'll select the data range and I'll click OK. And then I'm copying it. Now what's happening is these are called spark lines. So these are very tiny charts which are present inside a single cell, which will actually talk about the trends. If you want to quickly visualize different trends, like so much of data is there, then you can use spark lines. Generally what happens with these charts is these charts are very big in size. Now let's say if you have data like this, you can't create too many charts, right? You can't have like 10 charts. So in those cases, you can actually go ahead with spark lines. So I'll just show you once again. So you'll keep the cursor. So you'll keep the cursor here. I'm just giving an example. You'll go to insert. You'll go to line, and then you'll select the data range, and I'll click OK. So it's as simple as that. There is nothing involved other than that. Now let's say you want some columns. You don't want a line chart. You want a column chart. So I'll select all this, And then here there is a new button called Sparkline, right? You have home, insert, page layout. On the top, if you just observe, there is something called Sparkline. And here, what I'll do is I'll put a column chart. So this is like a mini column chart. And now let's say I want to highlight my highest point. So whichever is the highest point, it will be marked with red color, right? These are all marker colors. If you want highest point to be green, you can select it to be green. And let's say my lowest point, I want it to be red. So I'll select this, go to Sparkline and say low point. And here my low point, I want, let's say orange, right? Because these points are very low, you are unable to see it. But if I just zoom in, you have orange color. You can see very carefully, right? This is orange color. So in this way, you can beautifully represent so much of data in just single. Whenever you are dealing with so many cells, especially with two-dimension data, you want to see both kinds of trends. The horizontal trend as well as the vertical trend. So that is where Sparklines will be helpful. And even you can use Sparklines even for charts also. Let's say you're talking about wins and losses. Let's say you're talking about certain trends which you want to identify, whether it's an increasing trend or decreasing trend. So when we talk about trends, you will go for line chart. When you want to talk about certain values, maximum, minimum, etc., then you go for column. If you're talking about some finance or stock related kind of stuff, then you go for win loss. So there are three options which are given. And here you can always give markers. So many customization options are there. So these are all different colors which you can use. And then here you have all the marker colors. Then even you can change the Sparkline color. Let's say I want all my Sparklines to be red color. So I'll go here and I'll say red color. So my Sparklines are red color. Now let's say if I change this value, here I'll say 1500. As you can see, it is dynamic, right? So in this way, you can use Sparklines to your advantage to make your Excel look even more visually appealing. And also one more thing about Sparklines is once you create, so for example, let's say you create a Sparkline, right? Let's say you want to delete them. You can't actually delete them. So if you go to the cell and try to delete them, it doesn't work. So only way is you have to copy this cell and then paste it. Otherwise you can't delete them. So in case you create a Sparkline and if you want to delete it, make sure to remember that point. So that is about Sparklines, right? So far we have discussed about three things: automation with tables. Then I talked about target charts. Then I talked about Sparklines. All three are three different cases. Now let me talk about something called pi of pi. The next topic which I'm going to talk is called pi of pi. We generally use pie charts. Now let me tell you what is the problem when it comes to pie charts, right? So I'll just copy this value and paste it. Okay. Generally in pie chart, if you think about it, if you look at market share, generally in market share, in realistic scenario, you always have 3 to 4 big players. Then you'll have many small players in the market. So if I just structure my data according to that, you'll observe what I'm talking about. So let's say this guy, so one of the guys is having 30% market share. The other guy is having 25%, 15%, 10%. So if you just add them, you have 80%. Now let's talk about small players, right? Small players, let's talk about 3%, everyone. Right? And of course, here I'll say 1% and 1%. If you see, this is total 100%, right? This is total 100%. Generally, and realistically, if you look at market shares, you'll always find 3 to 4 big players and many small players. Now let's look at this structure. If I just go here, so here I'll say share. I'll go here and then I'll go to insert charts. And then if I create a pie chart. Now this pie chart is looking fine. I mean, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this pie chart. But if you see this data, this part, there are too many segments, right? These 4 are fine. The blue, orange, gray, and yellow. These 4 are fine. This part is fine. But once you go to this part, so many players are there and it can be a little confusing also. Like it is not really visually, we can't see them and you can't see the labels properly. You don't know which player is that, all these things will come. So the solution for this is what you have to do is, instead of pie chart, go for pi of pi. So pi of pi means, just watch this. I'll select everything, go to insert, then I'll go to all charts, then I'll go to pie chart, and then you see something called pi of pi, right? So you go to insert, go to recommended charts, all charts, pi, and then pi of pi. So this is called pi of pi, and I'll click OK. Now this chart looks better than the previous chart. Now what I'll do is, I'll say format data series, and then here it is asking, how should I split my series? It should be based on the position. For example, it says fourth position. Fourth position means what? It is actually trying to split whichever is after fourth or something like that, right? Now if I select percentage value, now I want all the percentages which are less than 10%, right? 10%. That means what is happening? I have 4 players, right? These are the 4 players, and then all the remaining ones are actually summed up like this. So let's say if I say I want everything less than 11%, right? So I have 4 players and all the remaining players are actually clubbed up like this. So in this way, what will happen is you are able to see the pie chart within another pie chart. So these are all the major players. So 1, 2, 3, and all these players are together, like all these players are shown together. So these 3 players are already given here, right? 1, 2, 3, something like that. So the point is, so the point of this chart is you are able to use pie chart in a more effective way. And another way to represent this is, if I just select and go here, I can also use a stacked column chart like this, right? So you have a lot of customization options here. So if I go here, you can put a pie explosion like this, right? You can explode the pie like this, or you can change the gap width, right? And then you have the second plot size. Let's say I want a very big chart. The second one should be big. Then you can actually change the size of it. And then here you can put some value, position, percentage value. So let's say if I want 15%, so it will change. So depending on whatever customization you put here, this chart will also automatically change. That is the advantage of pie chart, right? Generally in realistic scenarios, this is what you'll find: 3, 4 big players and many small players. To represent the many small players, it is always good to have pi of pi, so that it will be easy for users to actually differentiate. So that is about pi of pi chart. And the next thing which I want to talk about is negative versus positive. Here we talked about targets, right? Now, if you just think about it, if you just think about this chart, I want all negative values to be red bars and all positive values to be green bars. If you just think about this, earlier what did I say? Earlier, if you see, this is what I said earlier. I am talking about above target, below target. Now what I am saying, above 0, below 0, right? Earlier I was talking about a target. I am giving a target here, and then I am talking about creating 2 columns. Now when it comes to this logic, this particular logic, the point is you are talking about above 0, below 0. That's it. Let's say I want to have the same logic where all the positive values should be green color, all the negative values should be red color. All you need to do is just change this to something like 0, something like that. Now let's say if I have -100. What happens is whichever values are negative, they'll be in red color. So for example, if I say -400 and here I'll say -1200. So what's happening is wherever negative values are there, I'm getting red color bar. Wherever positive values are there, I'm getting green color bar. The logic is same. Only thing is target will be target equal to 0, right? Instead of some random number. So in that way, wherever you get negative values, you'll have red bars. Wherever you have positive values, you'll have green bars. The same logic you can use. That's about it. So especially this will be very helpful whenever you're talking about profit loss in finance world, because in finance world generally you have a lot of negative values and positive values when you deal with percentages, variance, etc. Right? Like sometimes you have this positive or negative variance kind of thing, right? Deviation basically. So during those cases, this logic can be helpful, right? And the next thing which I want to talk about is the heat maps. Heat maps. When you talk about heat maps, so I'll just show you an example, right? Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, A, B, C, D, E. Now I'll say rand between. So I got some sales values, rand between. Now let's say I want it to be like very visually sensitive graph. I don't want to see so many numbers, right? One way to look at this is I can go here and I can use this one, right? This is very appropriate chart whenever you have a matrix structure, two-dimensional structure, right? You have two headers, right? Column headers, and then you have row headers. This is good. But another way of representing this is through a heat map. So what do I mean by heat map? So I'll go here, I'll select this, I'll go to conditional formatting, and then I'll go to color scale, and I'll select like something like this. So more equal to green, less equal to red, right? Wherever you have small values like minimum value, that will be red, and wherever you have maximum value, that will be green. You can also do reverse. For example, if I go here and if I select the second one, it's the opposite. More is red, less is green. So I'll select this one. And now if you think about this, this is looking okay. I mean, this is fine. But if you want only the visual representation, you don't want to see any values. So what you can do is right click, go to format cells, go to custom. So I'll just repeat, select the range, right click, format cells, go to custom, and then type 3 semicolons. 3 semicolons, that's it. Go to custom and say 3 semicolons and click OK. Now you're having a very nice heat map. So if someone looks at this particular heat map, they'll be easily able to identify where the sales are bad. For example, if you see this, the region E and quarter 3, the sales are bad. The best quarter, if I ask someone, which is the best quarter, like which cohort has the best quarter? So it's very easy, right? You have B company and Q4. So this is the best quarter, this particular area. Here you have these two are best quarters, this and this. Which are the worst ones? This one, this one, this one. So it's very easy for the eye. This is good, but again, if you want something like a comparison, if you want to see which one is the best performing quarter, best performing company, especially when you're dealing with two-dimensional data, heat maps always work very well. So that's how you can use heat maps to your advantage. So all you need to do is select the values, go to conditional formatting, set a color scale, and once you do that, right click, go to format cells, and then go to custom and say 3 semicolons, right? Three semicolons, right? 3 semicolons. So you just have to type 3 semicolons here. That's it. And that's how you'll be able to generate heat map with all the values. Now that is about heat maps. And the next thing which I want to talk about are trends. Trends. Now when you talk about trends, for example, now let me copy this values, the sales value. Now here what I'll do is I'll say Jan, Feb. So this is just an example, of course. You can actually do some advanced analysis as well, but for the purpose of this demo, I'm giving a simple example and I'm saying sales. So now what I'll do is I'll go here, convert it to a table, right? Again, I'll go here and I'll create a chart, something like this, right? Or I'll create a line chart. Now this is looking fine. Now, sometimes what happens is we want to forecast things, right? We want to know what will happen in the future. So to forecast things, of course, you can use very advanced machine learning or data science related stuff. But if you want something very simple, very simplified thing, then what you can do is select the chart, go to chart design, and then go to quick layout. And here you have plenty of options like this, right? You have plenty of options. Now here, sometimes you'll find an option to add a trend line. If that is not present, go here, go to format data series, and here you'll find plenty of options once again, right? Plenty of options will be there. So there are many things which you can do like this. So for example, what I'll do is the easiest way probably is select the chart, go to add chart element, and then go to trend line and add a linear trend line, exponential, linear forecast, moving average. You have a lot of things. I'll say linear trend line. And of course, because this is a trend line, because this is looking very perfect, probably I'll change the value, something like this. Something like this. Now there is a trend line. Now I'll select the trend line, right? And I'll click format trend line. And I want to project it 3-4 periods. Here it is asking forward and backward forecast. Do you want to forecast it forward or backward? So here I'll say I want forward forecast of, let's say, 3 months. So I'll say 3 periods, and it is giving me a forward forecast. So this is a forward forecast. Now let's say if I want backward forecast, I'll say 2 months. So it will actually try to give you backward forecast as well. 1 second, maybe it is not, I don't know why it's not working. It should work. And you can also set an intercept here, right? You can set an intercept, or you can display the equation on the chart. So y equal to mx plus c format, because this is a linear forecast, you are having a linear equation, y equal to mx plus c. And also you can even put r square value, like what is your accuracy of prediction. So you can put r square, and also you can change it to polynomial. Now if you put polynomial, the equation also changes into something like order 2, order 3, order 4, something like that, right? So this is how you can actually use the forecasting related built-in forecasting tools within Excel. So this can be very helpful. And of course, there is one more way also. So I'll just show you that as well. So you go to region, go to insert, and then you insert a chart like this, right? Another way to do this is go here, select the chart, go to data. 1 second. Yeah, go to data, and yeah, here you have something called forecast sheet. So what you can do is select this, go to forecast sheet, and here there is one more thing, one more option to forecast your data. Here you can put confidence interval, you can put the starting of the forecast, ending of the forecast, you can select zeros, what kind of interpolation you want. Here you can find out average, max, median, etc. All these things, right? So you even have lower confidence and upper confidence. So in this way, you can actually use the built-in forecast tools which are present in Excel with some confidence levels, different confidence levels. Let's say if I say 90% confidence levels, so all the values will get adjusted automatically, right? So this is also one more way. You can go to forecast sheet and do it. Now, when I talk about this particular chart, and if I go to chart elements, you have different things. One is the trend line, right? Trend line works fine. And in the trend line, there is something called moving average. Now, this is normal trend line and this is a moving average. The reason why I'm showing moving average, because many people ask, I want moving average, because moving average is like very, very important thing for certain forecasting related things. So you can add a moving average with different periods. So moving average means what? For example, if I say, I'll just show you what is moving average. I'll say average of these 4 values. And if I just copy this, so what's happening is the average is moving, right? So this is called like moving average. Sometimes people call it rolling average, different names are there. So that is what it is doing. So this will be like very, very good. It's like a very good way to forecast things when you don't have seasonality, right? Moving average. So whatever you're doing manually with a calculation, Excel has done it automatically with the built-in option with moving average, right? So this is how you can actually take advantage of moving averages. So here you can take advantage of heat maps, then pi of pi, pi of bar chart, like it's like a tree map, etc. And the final chart which I want to show you is a tree map. Now let me show you what I mean by tree map, right? So I'll take only 5 categories and I'll paste it. So I'll talk about tree map. Tree maps are generally used for, they are generally used for hierarchical data in general. I mean, that is a normal convention, but people also use tree maps for general representation also. Now, for example, I select this, I'll go to chart and I'll create a pie chart. Right, this is one way to represent it. Pie chart is fine. This is looking okay. There is nothing wrong with this. Another way to represent this is I'll go here. I'll select this and I'll put it. This is another way to represent this, right? It all depends whether it's a market share, something which adds up to 100%, then you do this. But because we are talking about January, February, March, this may not work, right? This is not a right chart. This might be an appropriate chart. Now let's say sometimes what happens is you want to put something like this in a report in a more fancy way, right? So what you can do, you can select this. So instead of pie chart, like I told you, pie chart may not be appropriate, but still I'm showing you as a demo, right? So here what I'll do is I'll say region instead of month. A, B, C, D, E, right? So here when you talk about regions, this will work, right? This is a good chart. Now what I'll do is, here there are different charts which are available, and if you go here, there is something called tree map. Now tree map looks very nice when you make reports. Generally, if you don't want to use pie chart, so one is tree map. Tree map looks different from other charts. So you have these beautiful bars which are coming up to represent the market share. For example, if I had 500 here, now you can see it looks more dynamic, right? This is looking great and this is also looking great. And one more chart which you can do is, one more chart which you can go forward with as an alternative to pie chart is, donut chart. So donut chart is also great. So here in donut chart, you can actually reduce the donut, the thickness, and here you see, this is also a great looking chart. So this is one type of chart, but generally the people use tree map for hierarchical data, right? Let's say you have a company and different quarters are there. Generally people use it for that, but I use it even for normal use cases also. Whenever I feel that it should look little fancy or something, tree maps really work great. And here you can even represent the data labels also. For example, you can put values also. This is the category name and this is the value, right? And here you can define which numbers you want. You want it in current, for example, I want it in currency. So because I'm staying in India, it is showing Indian currency, right? Rupees. Like that, you can actually display the values as well. And tree maps look absolutely nice when you actually put it in reports like Word documents. Maybe tree map may not look great in PowerPoints. If you are making PowerPoint, either go for a donut chart or a pie chart. But when you are making a report in Word document, tree maps look absolutely stunning, right? I highly recommend it. I recommend to use tree maps. So this is about tree map, and these are the things which I wanted to cover today. And if you have any questions, you can ask me.
It's a lot of very high value things you've shared.
Yeah.
Wow,
Hello.
awesome. Hello, Sanjay.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, yeah, awesome. For now, we don't have any question, but I want to ask a question now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello, Sanjay.
Yeah.
Okay, what about in a situation where you want to use like a slicer or a filter within your chart, so to be more dynamic? How will you go about it?
Okay, you want something with a slicer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you want to use slicers, there are something called pivot charts. Pivot charts are always the best when you want something with a slicer, because whatever charts I'm showing you are normal charts, normal Excel charts. So when you go for pivot table, for example, let's say if I go here And if I go to insert, and then I'll create a pivot table here, right? And here I'll put region, and then here I'll put sales, and then here I'll put a slicer for region, right? I am putting, and then again I'm going here, and here you have something called pivot chart, right? Now if I select, so this is how you can do it. So you have to go for a pivot table in that case. So based on your selection, it changes.
Yeah, this is cool. That's awesome. So for everyone in the house, if you have any question, can always drop it in the chat box. I'll read it out. So no questions so far. So Sanjay.
Yeah.
Hello, Sanjay. Yeah, before at the beginning of the session, I'm sure Michael would have asked you the 2 questions we usually ask towards the end of every section.
Yes.
So for the first question, can you just tell us how you started your whole data journey? And the second one, what advice you have for younger ones just starting out, most especially here in Africa, just starting out in the data space?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have done my undergraduation in engineering. So I have studied electronics engineering, and then I have shifted to some kind of finance and general management role. It's a very big transition. So I did not go into technical side of things. And when I worked there, what I realized was you have to be very good with data, because when you are in finance field, whether it's corporate finance or public finance, whatever field you are in, finance is one field where you need to deal a lot with data, especially when you're working for big organizations. And then I realized that maybe finance is the right fit for me. And then I went for an MBA. And when I went for an MBA, I have taken finance as my major. So we have only one major. We can't take two majors. So I have taken only one major, which is finance. And I have taken general management and finance as a combination. So at that point of time, the pandemic has come, and then someone gave me a suggestion that, so I went for learning Excel and all these things. I wanted to upskill myself because there was pandemic. I had nowhere to go. Like everything is locked. So I had to stay at my home. And then I joined some Excel classes. So when I joined Excel classes, someone told me that, Sanjay, you are having some technical background, which is like engineering, and now you're doing MBA. Why not go something for a combination of finance and technology? Why are you actually limiting yourself to finance side? That's when I thought that maybe I should get into a combination of analytics plus finance. And that's how I started my journey with Excel, because Excel is the tool which I have used always. But I was always very average with Excel. Like I knew only the basics of Excel, like what is VLOOKUP or what is average, very normal formulas. And when I took Excel classes and when I started learning all these advanced things, the course instructor told me that why don't you go for Power BI? Because in today's market, at least in India, even finance professionals are asked to learn Power BI, like whether they are chartered accountants or they are coming from engineering background or they are coming from commerce background, irrespective of people's background, people are asking to learn Tableau or Power BI or different visualization tools. So at that point of time, when I started talking to some of my friends who are already working, and they also confirmed the same. And then I realized that maybe I should take advantage of pandemic, and I started to upskill myself in Excel, Power BI, and then financial modeling and all these different areas. And that's how I got into analytics side. And when I was first joining the internship, it was a general internship. It's like analytics internship. That's it. It did not have any specialization. So when I was doing an internship, we had one client who is a very big finance related client, and they asked me to deliver a dashboard. Because I have a finance major, I was able to deliver it very easily, because the calculations, gross margin, all this very normal stuff. So they have taken some SAP data and then they have asked me to deliver. It was delivered. And then when I started to search for a job also, I initially got into supply chain. And after I got into supply chain, I really wanted to get back into finance because that is what I studied in my MBA. And then within 3 months, fortunately, I was able to switch to finance. So now I'm working in a combination of analytics and finance. So what I do is it's combination of uh, FP&A, which is financial planning and analysis, So all the data I deal with is related to forecasting or planning or something like that. And then the second part is the technology side, Power BI, Excel, SQL, and all these other things. So that's how I landed into data analytics with a combination of finance.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So the last one, you didn't tell us the advice you have for younger ones just starting out in Africa here.
Can you repeat?
And what advice do you have for younger ones just starting out in
Yeah.
the field of data in Africa?
Yes, definitely. Generally, when people come into analytics, the lot of focus is on tools, like which tool to learn, like whether to learn SQL first or Excel first, etc. But one more thing which I suggest is tools are very important, no doubt about it. Tools are very much in demand. If you want to get a job, you need to learn tools. But at the same time, my advice is start always with Excel, because Excel is something which every organization uses. It doesn't matter whether it's a startup or MNC or a medium and small size business. Irrespective of business size, everybody uses Excel. So start your journey with Excel, become good at it, and also choose one particular domain. For example, don't simply say I learned Excel. Either do some sales analysis, or do some supply chain analysis, or try to build a financial model. So what exactly you're doing with Excel is not just learning some functions. What is X lookup? What is what is H lookup? What is V lookup? No. What you have to do is learn Excel and try to build something with Excel. For example, you can participate in analytics competitions. For example, I went as a judge for a couple of analytics competitions. So these were like national level analytics competitions, and the best people have come to that, like top 10 finalists for the rounds. And when I saw some of their analysis, some of them have used just Excel and they have done excellent analysis. So that, let's say there were like 10 final participants, 10 different teams from best B schools of India, and one of the team came from one of the top 3 B schools. And I was expecting that probably they'll be showing me some Python analysis or some SQL related stuff or something like that. But actually, they have done their entire analysis on Excel, and they have done it very, very well actually. And that actually blew my mind. So the point is, even if you go to a very top organization, or even if you go to the best B school as well, Excel is going to help you a lot. And at the same time, you need to be good with the domain, because in that competition which I'm talking about, they were actually given marketing data, like sales data, and they have to do something called cohort analysis and RFM analysis, right? Sorry, RFM analysis. These are very famous marketing related stuff. So they were able to do very good analysis because of 2 reasons. One is domain knowledge. Second one is technology. Domain knowledge means what? They were very good with marketing and sales related analysis, and they were very good with the tools like Excel. If you are only good with tools, one second. If you are only good with tools, what happens is you may learn tool very well, but when you learn domain also, that's when people will make sense out of what you are doing actually. So for example, let's say you go to some company for a job. If you simply say that I have taken an Excel course, okay, these are my certificates, please give me a job, that is one kind of way to ask for a job. The second kind of way to ask for a job is learn Excel, learn financial modeling, or let's say learn RFM or cohort analysis, and then show those projects to the recruiters. Okay, I worked on Excel and I'm very good at sales analytics. Okay, I worked on Excel, I'm good with HR analytics. So that what will happen is, when you add a domain to your particular skill set, that will really give you very good roles, especially in big companies, because companies are not looking for programmers. People want someone who has a mix of technical skills as well as domain related skills. They don't want someone to be like a programmer who just follows whatever someone says, right? So if you are trying for very good roles in very good organizations, it's always good to have domain knowledge along with technology. So this is the advice which I give. Start with Excel, then you move on to other things like Power BI, SQL, and everything. And then don't forget to add domain knowledge into it. That will make your skill set very strong in front of the recruiters.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you. So I'll keep that in my technical skills and domain knowledge.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome, awesome section. So I think with no other question, we're running off for today now. So Sanjay, thank you very much. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. So I'll just I'll hand over to Michael. We'll be closing very soon.
Yeah.
So there's a
Okay,
bye for everyone.
thank you.
Hello, Michael. Yeah, okay.
So thank you to everyone. Wonderful. It's a very wonderful. Say very thank you. And your very nice, clear way of explaining. Very natural. Even though you can't see our faces, you are very David.
Your voice is not audible. Some background noise.
What about now? Is it clear?
Yeah, now it is good.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Sorry for that. So I was saying that thank you very much for your time and the clear explanation. I was saying that you're a very natural teacher. The way you are taking us, even you are not seeing our faces, but you made it in such a way that you know that there was an audience following you. And I like the way you did the one on the table and then the one on the red and green
Yes.
when they are targeted. You summarize the steps. So I want to say that thank you for that, and that maybe when you are done with the corporate world, you should go into teaching too, or do it part time because it seems you are very excellent at it. So to everybody, this is where we draw the curtain, and if you are interested in the Power BI that is going to happen in about 1 hour's time, it's on Azure. I think my colleague will share the link so you can join the session. But at this point, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. And thank you especially to all those who joined in from India. I know it's late at night. And thank you, Sanjay, for the wonderful, excellent presentation. It's been a wonderful time with everyone, and have a very wonderful week ahead. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.